Welcome to Down South Football Podcast. On this occasion, it is Tuesday night. It's Tuesday night, right?
It is Tuesday.
I had
It
to be
is
sure.
these weeks
One
running
thing,
together,
yeah,
brother.
you're
It's
right
getting
about
closer.
that.
You can feel it.
It's Philly. We are officially, today is the 10th. We're officially 18 days away from college football starting. A lot of the people that we talk about is on the 4th, but we got a lot of stuff happening on August 28th. It's going to be some great games on that day. We'll come to you guys today, man, talking about the untimely passing of the great coach Bobby Bowden, of course, a native of Birmingham, coached at, Howard, not Samford,
Howard.
when it was Howard, and of course, his legacy was built at Florida State University. So we definitely want to, at the time when they was basically just known for being a women's college, if I correct about my assessment,
Yes.
And how far he took that program up, and we just want to first of all send our condolences to the Bowden family with everything that they got going on, and when it comes to that, man, it's I'm really sad to see Bobby go, man. Bobby was a straight shooter. He always had, from listening to so many stories about him, he always had a kind word and advice for you. But before I turn it over to my co-host, Mr. Chauncey Tuck and Mr. Ben Dennis, I am DJ Double Dose. I wanted to talk about just a little bit of what some of his accomplishments that he had. Right. I think the most impressive accomplishment to me, and when people have been talking about it, is the fact that he had 19 straight ranked finishes from 1987 to 2005. And if I remember right, he had a streak of top fives.
14 years.
14 years in a row, man. That and what he did for that program and everything that people have always said about him, I think that's just one of the lasting legacies. And I just think it's one of those things you'll never see again. Mm-hmm. So before we turn it over to Ben Chauncey, what's your initial thoughts on the passing of Coach Bobby Bowden?
When you want to talk about dominance back in the 90s, like the mid 90s to a little bit
mid 80s to 90s,
yeah, something like the dominance, and they was in the ACC, and then Florida State was just, I guess you could call Florida State today's Clemson. That's how dominant they were, and I think they're gonna get back. I think they're gonna get back to that point. But with Bobby Bowden, man, let me tell you. For one thing, I think he was an innovator as far as bringing coaches in and keeping coaches. Man, what was it? What was the defensive coordinator name?
Mickey
Andrews.
All I do is blitz and play man.
That's it. That's it.
And I'm blitzing and I'm playing man on the outside. That's it.
Mickey and one thing Bobby could pick out was a quarterback. He one thing he could pick out the quarterback, like anything from Charlie Ward to 35-year-old Chris Winkie. You know what I'm saying?
Pick six, Chris Ricks, and then
look, 35. So he could pick a quarterback. He could also pick. He knew talent. And by far one of the most electrifying players ever to put on a Seminole jersey was Peter Ward. I had Peter Ward jersey when I was in high school. I mean, yes. Another thing, he innovated the game as far as when it comes to not association, but when it comes to being fashionable. When Florida State first got the tethers on their necks, when they got the Seminole stuff on their jerseys, they were the first one to brought the Nike check on their jerseys too. I mean, the Nike branding was all through Florida State. So everybody want to talk about Oregon? Nah, because if you didn't have a Florida State jersey, you weren't rocking nothing right. So he started that stuff. He was a player's coach. Right. He's the one that
a real player's coach.
Real player, right? He's the one who let his players, do certain things, as far as to the edge. We used to call them used to call him Free Shoes University.
That was old Steve. Old
Yeah, that was
Steve
on Steve.
coined
And
the
then
phrase.
and then Peter going to Dillard's and getting free stuff too.
Hey now.
Like I said, it was very interesting,
Right.
but not the bad stuff. But it's like Bobby Bowden was an innovator when it came to stuff like that. You're not gonna see somebody like that genuine, and he's that southern drawl that he had and all that good stuff too. It was just, and then I like, he knew what his time was coming. You know what I'm saying? He was ready. So, man, rest in peace, Bobby Bowden. That's all I got. I mean, like I said, he was just an innovator. That's all I got.
Right.
And some of the things before I turn it over to Ben, that people talk about is, the 38 straight ACC home wins from 1992 to 2001. We talked about the top fives. We talked about that. Still has 36 straight bowl appearances. That's still going. I mean, you got the 9 straight ACC titles. I mean, you can kind of go
12 in total. Like it's
yeah. I mean, you can keep going, on and on and on about the amount of records that he helped establish and the culture of Florida State. Like Florida State, Miami, everybody wanted to go to those two schools, and he always had those players that was electrifying. Where, like you said, we talked about Charlie Ward, we talked about Ward Dunn, but we can't forget about some of the great receivers that he's had and some of the great players he had with on defense, whether it's Derrick Brooks or any of those guys. You can go on and on and on and on. But man, I just think this legacy will never be top what he did for Florida State and what he was as a person. Now, a lot of people say he was a better person than he was a coach. Right. So that's why I am on it. Ben, you can go ahead, sir. Let you give your thoughts on your coach, as you like to say.
I think one of the main things that I made when I made my post that I talked about was he was willing to play a black quarterback or African American quarterback when that wasn't the most popular thing to do. And when you look at his teams as a whole, what he was able to do with Charlie Ward when he realized, he said, you know what, this is the way that you play. So what we're going to do is we're going to adapt everything around what you do. And when they started running that fast break offense with Charlie Ward, man, it finally got him his first national title. Because you look at the 2 years prior, if you look at all the TV, whenever they show Florida State highlight, whenever they show Florida State Miami, you always see the wide rights, and you always see him running, and he's like, oh damn, you know what I'm saying? Because in those years, in 91 and 92, those two missed field goals, in essence, cost him national titles because he didn't get to play for him in those years. And then
wide right.
Finally,
was it wide left or wide right?
Wide right.
Wide right. 3 times. Wide right 3 times and wide left 1 time.
Right. Thank you. There we go.
And it just was like, you look at that, and then when he finally broke through, and then when he won it in 93. But I mean, when you look at Bobby Bowden, I think the main thing that people always, when you looked at the outcry and you looked at the poor, everything that happened with him, people loved him as a man. And his memory, even in his older days, a lot of his former players would say that he may not remember, he wasn't the best with names, but he would always remember like what their moms cooked for him. And Brian McFadden told a real good story about how when he came on his visit, his little sister fell asleep in his lap. Because that's the type of person and the type of closer that he was. When he would come to the in-home visit, it was like, when he came and he spoke, and he always said that I'm recruiting the mamas. Because at the end of the day, if the mama is gonna trust me with their son,
right,
then that's my focal point. And that's how he closed the deal. I mean, like I said, we can talk about all the numbers and everything that he did, but I think he was just much more of a better person, than he was a coach. And he cared about the players. And like a lot of the guys will tell you that, he always spoke about religion. He was very religious, and he always spoke on all of that. And, for somebody like me, I always tell the story about how I became a Florida State fan. People always ask, how the hell are you from Birmingham, Alabama, you're a Florida State fan? Was because of the way he played Charlie Ward, and then finding out that he went to school here at Woodlawn, and knowing he was a native of Birmingham, man, that kind of just sold me on him, man. And when you look at the things that he did within the conference, and a lot of people nowadays, because we're so far removed, they don't remember that Florida State was an independent school at that time. It was independent.
It was all girls school too.
It was all girls school for a clip, and then by the time he became the coach, we was independent. So a lot of times you look at all of these independent schools, you look at what Notre Dame is doing, and you go back, you look at Florida State, they were playing all of these schools, and early on in Bobby's career, we was getting our ass kicked. But it was like, look, I'm not scared to go to Nebraska X amount of times and play them. I'm not scared to play whoever, because we're trying to make this into a brand and turn it into a powerhouse. And then, eventually, they ended up joining the ACC. But I say this before I go, because I don't want to be too long-winded.
No, you're fine. But I do have something I want to add to that.
I think the funniest thing that came out was, it's been so many myths and back and forth about Florida State and the SEC and Alabama and Bobby. I think the funniest thing was when he wanted a job in '86 at Bama. He wanted a job. He pretty much thought that he had the job in tow. They called him in. They told him, hey, come on down. He's thinking, yo, I got the job. This just a formality. They just finna show me the facilities, blah, 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 whatever. He gets there and they tell him he got an interview.
Yep.
And now Bobby, and anybody that talks about this story about he's not a cocky coach, he wasn't an ego-driven coach. But at that moment, he was like, I'm Bobby back. You know what? Don't even worry about it. He turned right back around and he went back to Tallahassee. And, like they say, a year or two later, the dynasty really took off, and you saw, what happened from there, man. And when you look at some of the electric players that came through Florida State while he was there, I mean, you're talking about icons. You're talking about Peter Warrior. You're talking about Dion. You're talking about Marvin Jones, Derrick Brooks. I mean,
Lord, how could I forget Dion? Lord, have mercy.
And Terrell Buckley. And the list goes on and on and on. Warwick Dunn. I mean, it's just like you look at some of those guys that played for him, man, and what they were able to accomplish at the next level. And it's just like, man, it just was a testament of who he was, and also who Mika Andrews was running that defense, man. So, rest in peace, Coach, man. I'm always going to call you Coach no matter what. Everybody get on me about that. All my hashtags, I always used to say Bowden era. You know what I'm saying? Don't know about my hashtags.
Look, you still Jimbo era.
Jimbo era, you know what I'm saying? Bowden era.
I heard it was one episode a couple weeks ago. You said, that's my coach. I'm like, what?
So, but you know what I'm saying, man. Rest in peace, man. Everybody in the family and everybody, man. Just rest in peace, man.
I do want to add this one more story to this. I heard this story, and I'm sure it's been told 1,000 times, but I think it just epitomized who Bobby Bowden was. So back in these days, I think it was Terry. Terry was coaching at Auburn, I think. I want to say he was at Auburn. I want to say it's Terry. Please, if I have the wrong Bowden, people don't kill me in the comments. But basically, they were recruiting the same guy. And back in those days, you couldn't recruit after midnight. Like, that was the rule. And said Bobby got there about 6:37 and stayed to midnight while if it was Terry, was sitting outside in the car. And then after midnight, he walked out the house and waved at his son and kept on moving because he knew he couldn't come in. He was just like, it's like, okay. He said, so, it's just stuff like that, man. The good old days of doing that type of recruiting and stuff like that, man. But just iconic, a legend, you know what I'm saying? Legacy never leaves of everything that's with Bobby Bowden, man. Like, you grew up on the sideline where I seen him wearing a little Seminole sweater and knowing that the squad was gonna come through.
Yeah.
Right. Let me tell you something. And then everybody keeps talking about Nick Saban in the straw hat. Bobby Bowden was the first to do that. And everybody was talking about Nick Saban didn't. No. Bobby Bowden been doing it, man. So yeah.
I mean, it all depends, but but definitely, man, rest in peace, Bobby, man, and we're gonna miss you because you was a straight shooter. So
always,
man. But before we wrap it up, I want to talk about, just for a second, we got a lot more coming for y'all, but we want to talk about, the USA Today top 25, preseason top 25. I'm about half and half on preseason top 25s. I'm not like just 100% in favor of me. To me, it just gives you talking points. for anything else. But the top 25 came out. I don't think anybody was any shock by the fact that let's just talk about the top 10. You had Alabama number 1. I can't disagree with that. Clemson number 2, Oklahoma number 3, Ohio State 4, Georgia 5, Texas A&M 6, Tuck team Notre Dame at 7. Iowa State with Mr. Brees Hall and the boys at number 8. North Carolina coming in number 9, and number 10 you had Cincinnati coming in. I didn't see a lot. I think to the non-college foot, a lot of people that don't really keep up with it's going to surprise them to see Cincinnati up there. It's going to surprise people to see Texas A&M, and it's going to surprise people to see Iowa State. Just from casual football fans, but I'm not really surprised by a lot that's in this because it's going to be so fluid. So you got a top 5 matchup out your first week, Clemson and Georgia. So you already know we're going to have some shakeup either way it go. But just your initial thoughts, Ben, on hearing that top 10 of the preseason from USA Today.
My surprise is North Carolina. I get but follow me. I get they got Sam coming back, but they lost. As much as we want to praise Sam Howell, those backs that's gone, that kept their offense rolling a lot harder. So I'm a little shocked about North Carolina, but again, between them and Miami, they are the preseason favorites. It's a flip up between them two of who's going to win the Coastal. And I guess my other surprise would be, it's 3 and 4, but you got Oklahoma over Ohio State, knowing with what Ohio State is bringing to the table, and then the fact that Oklahoma even got 2 first place votes, that's even more surprising.
I've seen Oklahoma before. Oklahoma has been a in some people's eyes has been a preseason mainly because of their improvement on defense and what they're bringing back. But Tuck, what was your initial thoughts?
Starting from the bottom at number 10. Well, not the bottom, but we'll start from number 10. Cincinnati, no way. They lost Freeman. He's at Notre Dame now as a defensive coordinator. So I really don't think that's gonna work. Really
okay.
And then who was the head coach of Cincinnati last year?
It's the same one, ain't it?
You see
I'm trying to think where did Van the head coach come from? I can't remember. Oh, he came from Notre Dame. Never mind.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Clark Lee came from Notre Dame.
Clark. So we got North Carolina. I'm kind of like Ben, but they do have, I think, 10 returning starters off of North Carolina.
Their receivers are back.
Defense. They got this. So they, like I said, Matt Brown. We'll see, but it's pretty run of the mill. Texas A&M, if they don't become Texas A&M and start looking towards the future and seeing those Longhorns in their back, they got
to figure out their quarterback situation first.
So Kellen Mond's not there, so I think it's an upgrade already.
Wait, hold on. Wait a minute.
That's why they're in the top 10.
No, they not.
Ain't that why they're in the top 10? Because Kellen Mond's
No.
Okay, I didn't know.
The offensive line is part of why they're in the top.
We're not gonna get into that. Go ahead, Tuck.
I just thought about it, but Alabama. Let's see. All right, so Alabama won. Georgia and all them. Yeah, that's fitting. I like I said, it's gonna be interesting, and just like the old adage says, coaches like what coaches say is the polls are for the fans, it's not for us. So.
Right.
Go ahead. Like I said, I just don't see why Cincinnati. That was a head scratcher. Everybody else was okay.
I've heard Cincinnati name a lot during this off season. Now to say that I've done all my deep research like I did, but what's the name is back too, right? What I get from this is that unless you're Alabama or a couple of these teams, if your quarterback is back,
they put a lot of there.
I'm not saying you don't have a good team, but North Carolina, you got Howard coming back, and I think Ritter is coming back for Cincinnati.
Iowa State, you should have Purdy,
and then you got Bryce Hall coming back.
Right.
So it's like I think a lot of it is like I say it's the USA Today poll, but we'll see. With Clemson, I have my questions about Clemson. What you gonna say, Tuck?
Oh, I'm just gonna say you kind of prove my point. Is you talking about the people that got ring quarterbacks, so you upgrade?
Yeah.
So Texas A&M.
Oh God.
Anyway,
Do you even know who Texas A&M starter is?
it don't matter.
None of us do.
It don't matter.
I do know who the quarterback contest is.
Yeah,
I do know who that is.
But they got two good quarterback options to replace mine. But to be honest with you, they are the home of the 12th man. They can pick a 12th man and put somebody.
Oh my God, I really can't.
Are they getting on your list with Georgia, Tuck?
Oh no.
Oh, okay. I'm about to say, I'm like, they getting on your list with Georgia?
Nowhere near it, bro.
Okay. I got you.
Are you sure about that?
I'm sure.
Because like I said, it's Texas A&M is a up and coming program. Even though they're an Adidas school, they're an up and coming program. So I mean, they
based off that, they're not gonna win, Tuck.
I mean, we all know this.
Okay, my favorite to win the Texas A&M job is Haynes King right now. That's my personal favorite, the sophomore quarterback.
He can sling it, man.
He can sling. He can run. He can run too. That's my favorite.
Too, so that's why I think he'll probably have that.
But like going down the line, I mean, we can get into later about what we think about him. But like in the offseason, I heard a lot of people saying they were going to vote Oklahoma number one because of Rattler, number two because of what they got on offense, and actually their improvement on defense. But it's gonna be interesting. This just brings us up for the next 2-3 weeks about what we got going on with the polls and with fall camps and everything that's just going around right now, talking about NIL and everything else. But
hold on before you leave that point, Renard. And you know what? A lot of people with Oklahoma think that their backup is actually better than Spencer.
Who thinks that right now?
A lot of people. There's a lot of people been talking about it. That's part of why people.
On one hand, how many people think?
I'm just saying.
They like Caleb. People like Caleb. A lot of people love Caleb. I love
people
Caleb.
love Caleb. People love Caleb. They really do. So they're really looking at it like if Spencer nuts up like he did last year.
Let me tell you something.
And Lincoln done already showed you he'll pull it.
Most definitely. But
Caleb hopping that thing is.
Let me tell you something. Mr. Rattler is probably one of the best quarterbacks in the country coming into this year. Okay,
I'm with you.
He learned so much last year when he got benched.
Because he did.
You see the fire he came out with?
Yeah, he did. And now he know what's behind him too. Yeah, he ain't. I mean, I don't think he gonna let it slip.
If you ain't learned nothing about something in Tuscaloosa, there's one thing you gonna learn is iron sharpens iron. And competition is everything.
Mm-hmm.
Kid ain't gotta worry about that. Dude. I ain't worried about Spencer not one bit.
I will say this, Ben, to support your point. If right now we're talking expectations, and Spencer Rattler has all the talent in the world.
Mm-hmm.
If he struggles, I don't think Lincoln would hesitate. When's the Oklahoma game? I mean, when's the Texas game for them? Like game 6, 7, something like that.
Something like that.
Yeah.
If it's something like that, we'll see how it goes the first couple games. But I have zero doubts with Rattler, mainly because of their schedule. Because we can talk about that later, but their schedule sets up like we'll walk into the Big 12 game. If they show up, I think this should be good. But we thank y'all for coming to us for this Down South Football Short. Once again, rest in peace, Bobby Bowden. We got a lot more coming. We got fall camp. We got to get these team previews in with these experts and all this other stuff we got going on, man. Other exciting news happening really, really soon. Tell a friend to tell a friend to tell another friend to follow us on all social media platforms. If you need help, it's right here. Down South Football Podcast on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram. Check us out on Instagram and YouTube. We're going to be It's going to be really more active on there. And on Twitter. We always active on Twitter at DSF Podcast, man. Check us out. Let us know what you think. Let me know how you feel about it. And let us know how you thinking. So, hey, if you with it, we're going to be there for you, man. And we're going to be good to go. But, hey, if nothing else, we about to be out this thing. For me, it's Renard Williams. It's Ben, and I am DJ Double Dose. It's Mr. Chauncey Tuck at Chauncey Tuck. And if nothing else, man, we'll be out and we'll holler at y'all later.
And we're gonna leave it with a dadgummit.
Peace.